Okay. So we dedicate this Srimad Bhagavatam session to the lotus feet of our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. Om Ajnanatirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadhati Swapadhantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shritapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sahitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Jaitam Sharatau Pango Mama Manda Matirgati Naksharvasvapadam Bhujao Radha Madanamo Divya Kundarinyo Kalpadrumadaha Srimatratnagara Simhasanasto Srimangata Sri Govinda Devo Prashtadibhi Sevamadam Smarami Srimandasarasarambi Ram Sivata Shatastita Karshan Veno Sunay Gopi Gopinata Shri Estunaha Tata Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Harite Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Adhishatadini Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Dharma Projita Kaitavo Atra Paramo Nirvatsaranam Satam, completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth. This Bhagavata Purana is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from religion. From the welfare of all such truth uproots the threefold miseries. Srimad Bhagavatam Bhagavalikim Vaparishvaraha Sadhyo Hridayamavidyate Atra Kritivihi Shushrushuvi. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Nastaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavate uttama shloke bhakti bhavate nashtaki. Idam bhagavatam nama puranam brahma samhitam uttama shloka charitam chakara bhagavan rishihi nishreyasaya lokasya dhamyam swastyayanam mahat. This Srimad Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of God, and it is compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people, and it is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Vai me ananda vishaya mate madhupate shagrit rathim mudvahata dada dange bhaugam mudannatihi. O Lord of sweetness, Madhupate, as the Ganga forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Mukam Karoti Vachalam Algundayim Girim Yaktapatamaham Vande Sudhudayim Pramanam Madhavam Sri Chaitanyam Sharam Om Sat. Hare Krishna everyone, welcome to our Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are doing chapter 2, the Lord in the Heart. This is Canto 2, chapter 2. And hopefully we can finish the chapter today, right? So we've done 4 sessions before. So this is the 5th session, right, on this chapter. Before that, let's do a quick recap of the salient points that we've covered in this chapter, right? So this chapter began with Sukadev Goswami beginning to answer the questions posed by Parikshit Maharaj. As we know, Parikshit Maharaj and all the sages of Naimisharanya, Parikshit Maharaj and all the sages from all over the universe are all assembled by the banks of the Ganga, waiting for Parikshit Maharaj to leave his body. So that he was supposed to die in 7 days. So at that time, Sukadev Goswami also came, and everybody gave highest respect to Sukadev Goswami and gave him a position to sit. And in this way, Parikshit Maharaj posed several questions. So the questions he posed was, he wanted to know what should a person do, what should a person chant, what should a person hear, and what should a person remember when he at the time of death, for one who is about to die. And he also asked what one should not do. So in this way, he's representing, just like how Arjuna represented all of us in the Bhagavad Gita by posing the questions, right, when he was in great distress towards Lord Krishna. In the same way, taking a step further now towards the time of death, right? So that represents all of us, because we are all waiting for, none of us will live forever in this body. So in that way, we are being represented by Parikshit Maharaj. So we should not waste our time and wait until the last moment, right? Parikshit Maharaj is representing us by asking these questions to Sukadev Goswami. So Sukadev Goswami is responding, right? So he says, he answers by what one should not do. So one should not do is one should not become a Grihamedi. Grihamedi is described as one who is only fully working on his material satisfaction, material sense gratifications. He has no time for spiritual activities, no time for anything besides his material goals. So the entire daytime he spends his time working, making money, or whatever, or sense gratification, and at night also in the same way, sense gratification, sleeping. So, but when it comes to, and he has all kinds of plans for all kinds of material sense gratifications and material plans, but he does not have time for spiritual activities. That is Grahamiti. So, Sukadev Goswami says one should not be a Grahamiti, because human life's purpose is not for material sense gratification. It is for us to, it's a ticket for us to escape this cycle of birth and death. So therefore, knowledge is first to be given, right? We have to first understand why we have to escape the cycle of birth and death. What is the situation within this material world? So all this information is given in Bhagavad Gita, and to some large extent, it's also given in the Srimad Bhagavatam to reinforce these principles within our heart. So then he says we should take up the path of yoga, reject the path of sense gratification and accept the path of renunciation or nivritti marga. And in nivritti marga, right, there are two paths. There is the jnana path and there is the bhakti path. In the jnana path, there are two stages. In the bhakti also, there are two stages, right? In the bhakti stages, there is the bhakti before liberation, which is known as the sadhana bhakti, and there is bhava bhakti, bhakti of after liberation, at the point of liberation. So in the same way, in the jnana path also, there are two stages. So the lower stage is called the virat rupa dharana. So when one starts performing meditation, that means one has already done karma yoga, then done jnana yoga, and then has progressed to dhyana yoga in the yoga of meditation, right? So in the beginning stage, when he's not very much controlled in his senses or in his mind, then it is recommended that they should focus on the virat rupa, on the universal form of the Lord. Not focus on nothing, not focus on light, not focus on some empty spot. No. So clearly it is given what one should focus on. This is for those who are not devotees, who cannot accept the concept of Bhagavan. So for them, the universe itself is wonderful. The universe itself is amazing. So, and the universe itself shall be worshipable. So in this way, they meditate on the entirety of the universe. So that is, in one sense, indirectly linking it to the Supreme Lord as Virat Rupa. So in this way, they get benefited, they get Agyata Sukriti. So because without a tinge of bhakti, their yoga processes cannot be successful completely. It will always be something short. So therefore, the tinge of bhakti, so even here in this case, it's a very small tinge because it's just linking it to the universal form of the Lord. But nevertheless, it is sufficient for them to progress. So once they follow the the dhyana yoga meditation on Virat Rupa, then when they progress a little bit, beyond that, they are able to then understand the concept of Paramatma. So they switch their focus to Paramatma dhyana. That happens if they are extremely fortunate. They are able to discover Paramatma within their heart due to Krishna's mercy, or they come in contact with devotees and they hear devotional literature. So then they understand, oh, there is us, the Supreme Lord, which is within our heart. So then they turn their focus into searching within for the Paramatma. So that is more advanced. And that kind of meditation is recommended for the yogi who is detached. So for the detached yogi, Paramatma Dharana. Dharana means concentration. So it begins with concentration only. After concentration, then the concentration becomes powerful, then it becomes meditation. So first concentration, then meditation, then samadhi, right? So, but both of these process, this Virat Rupa meditation and the Paramatma meditation, right? Both of these process is considered a gradual process. Gradual because it takes time for them to achieve their uh, the ultimate goal. So therefore, this liberation, but it is liberating. So it is liberating, it's authentic, right? So moksha, yes, but it's called krama moksha. Krama moksha means gradual mukti or gradual krama mukti, right? Moksha mukti is the same. So krama mukti means gradual liberation. So today we will hear more about this gradual liberation. We heard previously how so here I'm going to go back and recap a little bit more. Okay, wait. Uh, okay. All right, so here we heard previously how the yogi, the Astanga means the eight processes, the eight steps of meditation. So Dhyana Yoga is also known as Ashtanga Yoga, right? So this Dhyana Yogi, right? And here we can call him Yoga Mishra Bhakti. He's doing yoga, but mixed with a little bit of devotion. Therefore, Mishra means friend or mixed. So Yoga Mishra Bhakti means dhyana meditation, but mixed with a little bit of bhakti. So how is the little bit of bhakti mixed? So the lowest level of bhakti mixed is what is called Virat Rupa meditation. So that's what I mentioned previously, right? Virat Rupa Dharana. So they imagine the whole universe, they meditate on the universe, and in this way, there is some Agyata Sukriti for them. because indirectly the Lord is also represented by the universe in his Virat Rupa form. But more advanced and more beneficial is the Paramatma Dharana for advanced or detached Dhyana Yogi. So in the Paramatma Dharana process, okay, but if somebody is fortunate in the Virat Rupa Dharana, when somebody is not so advanced, he can also switch to Paramatma Dharana by the special mercy of the Lord, who may reveal himself to them, right? Or by the special mercy of the devotees. So when he comes in contact with devotees, so he may switch to Paramatma Dharana, like how we show here in the arrow, right? So then what happens? He advances further. So he begins to control the mind, and when he switches to Paramatma Dharana, he loses his desire, material desires. So because he's able to control the mind. So because now there is more tinge of bhakti, because he is now meditating on the Supreme Lord in the form of Paramatma, right? So it is bhakti, nevertheless. So therefore, only bhakti is able to completely remove material desires. But still, this is a very long process. It's a very difficult and long process, even Paramatma meditation. So anyway, what he does, so we heard more about what this Paramatma Abhideya. Abhideya means what is the process of the Paramatma Yogi? What is the method of the Paramatma Yogi? So therefore, we heard about the methods in our previous session, how they lift the prana from the lower prana there are six prana channels, six chakras within the body, all in a straight line, right? So from the prana is the life air of the body. From the lowest level to the higher level to the chest, from the chest to the throat, from the throat to the middle of the forehead. That is where the prana is kept. And in this way, prana is raised and they block all the gates. So the 9 gates of the body are all blocked, right? And in this way, with the Paramatma raised to the forehead like this, by pure intelligence. So how is the pure intelligence developed? By the mercy of the Paramatma. So, we have this nice verse, Sarva Sachaham Hridi Sannivishto Mata Smritir Jnanam Apohanam Cha. So in this way, the Paramatma who's living within our heart, he is the one who gives us forgetfulness and all that. So remembrance also he can give us. So he can give us forgetfulness, he can give us remembrance, he can give us understanding. So the pure intelligence is developed by the process of this Astanga Yoga. And in this way, what he does, he merges with using the pure intelligence, using the purified intelligence by the mercy of the Lord, he begins to merge the mind into the Atma. How does he merge the mind into the Atma? The mind is where desires are kept. So desires are kept, and willing, feeling, and thinking, right? Experiences and desires. So by the process of mechanical Ashtanga Yoga, he is able to bring the mind to a standstill. That means no more desires. Very forcefully, he makes the mind stand still. It's a big effort, right? But nevertheless, by making it stand still, in other words, desireless, he is able to merge the mind into the Atma, because the Atma does not have anything material. So when the mind becomes desireless, from material it becomes spiritual. So therefore, it's able to merge into the Atma, because it is all Brahman, right? So merging the Atma into Brahman, and then he takes the Atma, which is confined within our body, and merges that into the Brahman, which is in the universe. So that particular stage, when there's a connection between the Atma within ourselves and the Brahman within the universe, right? So that stage is called Labdo Prashanti. Labdo Prashanti also means Mukti or Moksha. So this is at the stage of liberation. So now this person is already liberated within his body. So while he's liberated, that is called Jivan Mukta. That means while still alive, he's liberated. So at this stage, he has a choice. He can either remain alive, right? And he is able to travel all over the universe. Or he can immediately give up his life and attain liberation. So one who is more advanced, then he would immediately give up his life and attain liberation. So how he does that? By merging the mind into the Atma and the Atma into the Brahman. So that is already liberated. So he exits the body, achieving either Sayujya Mukti or Vaishnava Mukti. Sayujya Mukti means merging into the Brahman effulgence. So if some devotees, some yogis may want that, right? If, so, but even merging into the Brahma Jyoti cannot be achieved unless there is the mercy of the Lord, unless there is some tinge of bhakti, because the yogi has been meditating on Paramatma. Therefore, by dint of Paramatma mercy, if the yogi desires, he can merge into the Brahman. But if the yogi was extremely fortunate and he had association of devotees, then he would understand that he does not want to merge with the Brahman. That's Sayujya, to become one. So because it's temporary, even Sayujya Mukti will not last. So therefore, they will go for Vaishnava Muktis. That means association with the Lord, same opulence with the Lord, having the Lord as your relative or your friend, having the same form as the Lord. So he may accept if they want, right? So that's what happens in the Paramatma cycle and merges in, and enters the spiritual world, the spiritual planet. Now, but the Virat Rupa Dharana, he can also advance if he, let's say, from here. Now, this one, earlier I was telling you the ideal case for the Ashtanga yogi. If he were to take up Paramatma worship and he decides to quit the body and attain liberation, and let's say he attains the spiritual world, that's ideal for him, right? Or he wants to attain Brahman liberation, all right? But at least he has attained the supreme truth, right? Even if it's just Brahman liberation. But the Virat Rupa Dharana, he is the yogi who has not conquered his desires yet. So what happens to him? So because he has not conquered his desires, right? He tries to, even if he tries to continue meditation, right? It's possible with Virat Rupa Dharana, he can conquer his material desires, but because you can see Virat Rupa meditation is actually much more diluted form of bhakti compared to Paramatma meditation. So because of that, it takes a much longer time for him to attain that stage of losing material desires. But even then, it may not happen. So what to do? So if the yogi dies at this stage without conquering his material desires, then still there is a hope for him, right? So what happens because of his practice of yoga, right? He may not attain liberation immediately, but he may attain liberation gradually. So he follows the path of the universe, right? The path of the Milky Way, the Sishumara Chakram within his body. He aligns the Sishumara Chakram within his body with the pathway in the universe, the Milky Way, right? So that's the, so in this, we heard about this in our previous session. So by following the pathway of the stars, he first of all goes to the Vaishvanara planet, where it is the planet of Agni Dev. And over there, he gets purified of all remaining anarthas. And then, because he's now purified of anarthas, he can now take darshan of the Lord. And he takes darshan of the Lord within the Sishumara Chakram. That's the Dhruvaloka planet. Remember, we mentioned this previous session, right? And the Lord is residing there in Shvetadvip. So he may get darshan of the Lord directly, and which gives him further purification. So after that, so this pathway is called Krama Mukti. So it continues. Once reaching Sishumara Chakram, he goes further upwards beyond the Sishumara Chakram to Maharloka. So Maharloka is the planet of where all the perfected siddhas are living, right? And in that planet, everybody has the 8 mystic yoga perfections in full almost, right? So, we also discussed this about the 8 mystic siddhis, Anima, Lagima, Mahima, Prapti, Parakamya. So all these different powers, which are amazing, right? And they have them all in naturally. So those are the people who are living in Maharloka. So he could live there if he wants to. If he's attracted to get off at that station, he can if he wants. If not, he can also go to Janaloka, or he can go to Tapaloka, and finally he could go to Satyaloka. Because the lower planetary systems, like even Maharloka, all the planetary systems up to Maharloka will be destroyed at the end of Brahma's day. So then what happens? Everybody has to go upwards to Janaloka. So and if they are very fortunate, if they manage to attain higher, they can go to Satyaloka. So what happens in Satyaloka? So today we are going to continue the journey of this Virat Rupa Dharana, this Dhyana Yoga who was following Virat Rupa, and he was not successful in attaining liberation directly through the Paramatma cycle. So now what he does, he attains Satyaloka gradually, step by step, like how I just described. So previously we stopped at Satyaloka. Achieving Brahma's abode, what does he do then? So now we continue with that verse. So in that planet of Satyaloka, there is neither Shoka, Jara, nor Mrityuhu. So Shoka means no anxiety, Jara means no old age, nor Mrityuhu. Mrityu means no death. So it seems that people in Brahmaloka, they don't die. There is no birth. They take birth, they're fine. Yeah, but they don't die. And their birth is not the same as our birth. They just exist. They come there in their original, in their, that means they come, they don't take birth in Brahmaloka, they enter Brahmaloka. So like how the yogi from lower planetary systems, they enter into Brahmaloka. So there is no anxiety, there is no old age also, and there is no death. So they will exist like this. They will just exist. They will exist and exist and exist until Brahma 100 years has passed. So at the time of 100 years, it seems at the last day, at the last hour of the 100 years of Brahma, he immediately grows old at that time and he leaves the body at that time. So it all happens within a second. So that means they are all young and everything normal, nothing changes. And then towards the end, everything happens instantly. They grow old instantly and they die. So that's what happens in Brahmaloka. And all the people in Brahmaloka also follows the same way. So it says here there are no anxieties, except that sometimes due to consciousness, there is a feeling of compassion for those unaware of the process of devotional service who are subjected to unsurpassable dukkha, misery in the material world. So it's described how those living in Brahmaloka are always feeling the anxiety of compassion. So they have no anxiety, but they have the anxiety of compassion because they see how people in the lower planetary systems are all actually suffering. So how they can help them. So they're thinking in that way. So there's some anxiety. So this Brahmaloka, you can see there is no pain of any kind, but there is also no bliss. There is no real Ananda because Ananda is only with the Supreme Lord. Unless you are living in Satyaloka and you are devotee of the Lord, like how Brahma is devotee of the Lord, so then there is Ananda, even in Satyaloka. It doesn't matter. One can even be in hell, but and as long as one is always remembering Krishna, there is always bliss. That's why when Prahlad Maharaj was subjected to so many hellish torture by his father Hiranyakashipu, he was always in bliss. He was not in anxiety at all because he was united with the Lord in his remembrance. So that is the real bliss. So anyway, there is no bliss here within the loka itself as it is. So something like if you understand Catholic Christianity, they have a similar concept also. They call it purgatory. So purgatory is like it's neither hell nor heaven. So, or in other words, it's neither the spiritual world nor the material. Actually, it is the material world, but it's just the tip point. So here, material world is Mrityu Loka, world of death. But at the top tip of the material existence, there is no Mrityu. simply because of the existence of the Lord there. So the Lord is present there in Satyaloka also, and Brahmadev worships the Lord over there directly. So it's the form of Vamanadev, and also in the form of Narayana, I think. So anyway, so this is happening. So nevertheless, although Brahmaloka, there is this is described here, no Shoka, no Jara, no Mrityu, still it is not eternal. It will be destroyed at the end of Brahma's lifetime. So therefore, it is not a good place to remain also. Right? So therefore, after reaching Satyaloka, now if the yogi now who has become a devotee, how he has become a devotee? By the association of all the Vaishnavas in Satyaloka, or in association with Lord Brahma himself. So in this way, he may have become a devotee, and he may have completely purified himself. All right, he already had the darshan of the Lord in Sishumara Chakram. So in this way, he is already pure, right? So by the his material desires are no longer there. So at this point, now he can, after reaching Satyaloka, the devotee is specifically able to now be incorporated fearlessly by the subtle body in an identity similar to that of the gross body. So now he begins the process of liberation. He does not want to remain in Satyaloka. So again, what he does, the same thing which we heard earlier, what the Paramatma yogi was doing. So he merged, by using his pure intelligence, he merged his mind into the Atma, correct? So here it's breaking down a bit more. So by the subtle body is the mind. Subtle body consists of the mind, intelligence, and false ego, right? So therefore, he incorporates himself by the subtle body using the intelligence specifically in an identity similar to that of the gross body. So therefore, he gives up. He merges his mind, and he takes up something like a gross body. One after another, he gradually attains stages of existence. So actually what happens, gross body is gone already. Mind he has already merged using his intelligence, but he still has one more thing, which is subtle, which is called the ahankara, or the false ego. So the ahankara, the ahankara now takes up something like the gross body. What is gross body? Gross body is made up of earth, water, fire, air, ether, right? Right. So this ahankara also takes something of a similar form of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So mind is already merged, right? Intelligence. Now, this person in Brahmaloka, in Satyaloka, he now forms one by one different types of body. So he takes up an earthly ahankara body. So that means a false ego body resembling earth element. So why he takes up earth body? He takes up earth body because he has to penetrate the coverings of the universe. Now, the universe is made up, we've talked about the universe, the lower 14 planetary system, the Bhuloka in the middle, the higher planetary system stopped by Satyaloka, right? But it's all in the form of a shell, like an egg. So the egg is like the universe is therefore like covered by a shell. So this shell is actually made up of 7 elements. So the first of that element is earth. So therefore the ahankara is guided into taking the form of earthly form. So the earthly ahankara form. So from earthly, and then he goes to the next layer. So with the earthly form, he's able to enter into the layer. The first layer which surrounds the universe is made out of earth. So therefore, he needs an earthen form to enter into the earthen layer of the universe. So after that, he gives up the earthen form and takes up a water body. So, and enters into the next layer. The second layer of the universe is made up of water. And then, like that, he gives up the water body and takes up the fire body, which is needed to enter the third layer of the universe. And then he gives up the fire body and takes up air body, which is the fourth layer of the universe. And then he gives up the air body and enters into ether body, which is space, right? Which is the fifth layer of the universe. So imagine, just hold on a minute. I need to say. Okay, sorry for that. Yeah. So therefore, you can kind of imagine like how, in order to enter those earthly layer or watery layer or fiery layer, you are entering into a special spacecraft. So to enter Earth, you're entering into an earthen spacecraft made out of Earth. And to enter into the water dimension, water layer, you're entering into a watery spacecraft. To enter into the fire layer, you change into a fiery spacecraft like that. So you have different. So this is like a body. So therefore, now the Atma and the Ahankara, only both of them are surviving together, right? So the Ahankara now not willing yet to give up. So therefore, he takes the body of the earth, the water, the fire, the air, the ether. In this way, he is also purifying. He's giving up the layers of Ahankara within him also. So the layers of Ahankara. So therefore, we can see from earthly to watery, fiery, glowing, and airy until he reaches the ethereal stage, which is the ether, right? So then Sukadev Goswami continues, the yogi thus surpasses the subtle objects of different senses. Like in earth, within the earthly region, right? He overcomes the control of the sense of smell, aroma. So he gives up. He's no longer affected by aroma or smelling. So then he gives up the palate by tasting when he enters into water, because aroma is produced by earth, taste is produced by water, and then vision is produced by fire, touch is produced by air, and sound or vibration of the ear is produced by ether. So in this way, right, the yogi surpasses the subtle objects of different senses. So he is no longer captivated by all of this. So his material desires for all of these has dropped one by one by one. So finally, and the sense organs are also purified this way by the material. They are no longer interested in satisfying material activities. So at this point, the devotee becomes pure devotee. Pure devotee in the sense that no longer interested in material desires. So at that point only, he can penetrate the universe and enter into the spiritual world. So Prabhupada explains, anyone who can reach Brahmaloka by dint of spiritual perfection and practice is qualified to attain three different types of perfection. So as I told you earlier, right, it's like Brahmaloka is like the purgatory. Purgatory is like the waiting station. So it's like in Catholic Christianity also, they have this concept I mentioned earlier, right? So therefore, but the point is, if one can come to Brahmaloka, right, that means they are very special already. So anyone who can reach Brahmaloka by dint of spiritual perfection and practice is qualified. Now they are in the waiting stage. They are qualified to attain the three types of perfection. What are the three types of perfection? The absolute truth is understood by three levels, right? So by meditating on Virat Rupa Dhyana Yogi, so who are the people? First of all, who are the people in Brahmaloka? So in Brahmaloka, there are Virat Rupa Dhyana Yogis. The Dhyana Yogis who meditated on Virat Rupa passed through the Sishamara Chakram, went up and up, and finally came to Brahmaloka. They are staying there. If Paramatma yogis also, if they desired, they could have gone there also directly, right? So they don't have to go through the different levels of purification. So the Paramatma yogis, they are higher compared to the Dhyana yogi, the Virat Rupa Dhyana yogis. So they could all, if they wanted to, if they didn't want to go for liberation directly, They could have stopped by at Brahma Loka, say hi to Brahma, and then after that take liberation also can. So there may be some Paramatma Dhyana yogis over there, or there may be some Virat Rupa Dhyana yogis who converted to Paramatma Dhyana yogis due to the presence of Lord Brahma. So in this way, they became more advanced. So in this way, these two people would be living there. There may also be bhaktas, so pure devotees, like Brahma himself. So Brahma became a pure devotee, and he's still in Brahma Loka. So like that, there may be others. Brahma may have preached to some of them in Brahma Loka, and there may be pure devotees also. So therefore, these three people may be staying in Brahma Loka, and they can attain these stages of the supreme truth. So the absolute truth is understood as three levels: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So the Virat Rupa Dhyana Yogi can only attain Brahman, which is merging into the effulgence. But if he's fortunate, he can become a Paramatma Dhyana Yogi, and he may attain Paramatma realization. That is more advanced. Then he won't want to merge into Brahman. At that time, he'll give up Sayujya Mukti, and he will only want the Vaishnava Muktis, right? Or if he's more fortunate, he doesn't care about liberation also, doesn't care about Mukti. He becomes a devotee, a pure devotee, a bhakti yogi. A pure devotee doesn't care about his own liberation. He only cares about Bhagavan's seva, right? And therefore, that is the highest level. He attains Bhagavan, even higher than Paramatma. So Prabhupada says, but one who attains the place by dint of devotional service is specifically mentioned here in relation to how he can penetrate into the different coverings of the universe and thus ultimately disclose his spiritual identity. So in other words, unless one is some kind of a devotee, he cannot attain Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. A Mayavadi cannot attain Brahman unless he becomes a Virat Rupa yogi. At least he has to attain Virat Rupa Dhyana yogi. So this is mixed with a little bit of devotion, then he can attain Brahman, right? Little bit more devotion, then he can attain Paramatma. More completely full of devotion only, nothing else. Therefore, pure devotion, he can attain Bhagavan. So in this way, right, this is the path of the Dhyana yogi, the one who goes through meditation, and then he may achieve any of these positions. So here I'm showing you the 7 layers. So as I said, this is the universe, right? We have the upper planetary system, Satyaloka, Tapaloka, Janaloka, Maharloka, Swargaloka, Bhuvarloka, and this middle place here is the Bhuloka, the earthly dimension. Within this earthly dimension of Bhuloka, Bhumi is one of the planets which is floating around this disk. Below that, we have the subterranean heavenly planets known as the Bilva Swarga, which is mainly populated by demonic people. So therefore, we have the Talatala, Rasatala, Tatala, and so forth, the 7 lower planetary systems. And then below that, there is Yamaraja's planets, the Naraga, the 27 different Naragas. There are 27 major Naragas and thousands of minor Naragas within the lower planetary system. And then, so therefore, but it's all within a bubble or something like a shell, like an egg, right? And it has coverings. So this is the covering which we were talking about, right? From Satyaloka, they want to escape outside this bubble. They have to penetrate through this covering. The first layer is earth. Second layer is water. Third layer is fire. Fourth layer is air. Fifth layer is ether. And then comes mind, intelligence, and ego. So in removing one by one, right? Penetrating one by one, right? Now, a bit of the dimensions of this universe. This is one universe. One universe is about 4 billion miles diameter. This is the diameter of one. It's not a fixed diameter. Some bubbles are larger, some bubbles are smaller. Remember, all these universes are like bubbles coming from the pores of Mahavishnu, right? Lying in the Karana Ocean. So the smaller bubbles Earth is, our universe is considered one of the smaller bubbles. Lord Brahma only has 4 heads. So some other universes, Lord Brahma has more heads, so bigger. So our universe is described as 4 billion miles in diameter. So that's the diameter, right? And the layers, you can see, the layers are 80 billion. So it starts with 80 billion miles, 80 million miles. This is million. This is the first layer. The layer of Earth, just the layer of Earth is 80 million miles. So 80 million miles of Earth. And then like that, it increases by 10 each layer. So Earth layer was 80 million. Water layer is 800 million. Earth layer is 8 billion. Water layer, air layer becomes 80 billion. So like that, it goes on and on. It increases by tenfold. The thickness increases by tenfold until it reaches the final layer, which is the layer of pure ahankara or false ego alone, just ego. That is the last layer. So that one is that one is 80 trillion miles in circumference, in thickness, the layers. So this one is like, it's like more like a coconut. The covering is much thicker than the inside. So that's exactly how our universe is. Right, so by one who attains the place of dint by devotional service is specifically mentioned here. One, he can penetrate into the different coverings of the universe, and thus ultimately, so after he penetrates through the universe, he loses all his material identity, material nature, and only spirit comes out. Anything material cannot go out. So that is what happens. So Prabhupada says the coverings are considered to be the false egoistic covering of all living entities. So as I said, this coverings, right, earth, water, fire, air, ether, and everything is all part of them and part of the emanation of the false ego, different types of false ego. So the coverings are considered to be the false egoistic covering of all living entities. And the gradual process, so you see gradual process of liberation from the material coverings, one after another, as mentioned herein, is the gradual process of being liberated from false egoistic conceptions of the material gross body. So this is what happens to the meditating yogi, not for the bhakta. Bhakta doesn't have to go through this. Those who are following pure devotional service, right, as laid out by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in other words, free from material desires. If we are aiming for that as our standard, right, even though we may still have material desires, but if that is our standard, to be free from material desires, and we are praying in that way and going and following only pure devotional service, surrendering only to Krishna, right, then we don't have to go through this process. This is a very slow process because somebody may not die in Satyaloka. They have to wait until the end of Brahma's lifetime, which is 4.3 something trillion years. So trillions of years they may have to wait until they go back to Godhead if they reach Brahma Loka. So it's a very, very slow process, although it's something like a tour of the universe. If you're interested to see the tour of the universe within one lifetime, you can do that. But, devotees are not interested. They want to go directly to the spiritual world. Because whatever in the spiritual world, whatever in the material world is pale in comparison to what is there in the spiritual world. So anyway, and then Prabhupada says, and then being absorbed in the identification of the subtle body, till the attainment of pure spiritual body in the absolute realm of the kingdom of God. So if you want to enter into the kingdom of God, there are 2 ways to do it. Either merge into the effulgence and become one of the effulgence particles. That is not permanent because the nature of the soul is active. So at one point of time, due to no other action, they will again fall down into one of the bubbles because they haven't developed attraction yet for the spiritual, for the lotus feet of the Lord. Another way to enter the universe, the material universe, another way to enter the spiritual sky is by getting a spiritual body. So you need a spiritual body to enter into the spiritual world and to remain there, right? So that is what happens. So bodies, speaking of bodies, so we have what we can call, there's a different way of looking at it. In Vedic scripture, the different bodies are sometimes called as coverings of the soul, right? So the coverings of the soul. So there are coverings means kosha. Kosha means covering or layer, right? So the most basic layer or the basic body of a soul entering into the material universe is called Annamaya Kosha. So this Annamaya Kosha is the physical body. So Annamaya, Anna means grains. So this physical body is dependent on food, grain, right? So basically it is just dependent on grain. Like the baby, when the baby is born, right? It's predominantly is Annamaya Kosha. His mind is not developed. He's not very energetic yet. So his other layers are not so very fully developed yet. So it's just physical sense gratification, gross senses only. And therefore, that's why the baby, always wants to eat. So Annamaya Kosha, it wants to build its kosha to become more stable so it can go to the next level. Right? So most people in this world are hovering between the Annamaya Kosha and the Pranamaya Kosha and the Manomaya Kosha, within these three. Most of the time Annamaya Kosha. Occasionally they may rise for a while to Pranamaya or Manomaya Kosha, but again they will fall back to Annamaya Kosha, unless they are following the yogic principles. So yogic principles, there are two ways. One is the jnana path and the other is the bhakti path. So in the jnana path, we can raise our consciousness from gross material consciousness to a higher consciousness. So level by level, right? So Annamaya is just materialistic. This is like the Grihamedi, only thinking of sense gratification and senses, and that's it, right? So when the purpose of life becomes a little higher, that becomes Pranamaya Kosha. The devotee takes up active seva or service. That is how Pranamaya Kosha is attained in devotional circle, right? They take up devotional principles. So they dedicate their lives and energy into spiritual activities. So that's Pranamaya Kosha. But the meditation yogi, the one who's meditating, not a devotee, right? He will concentrate in controlling his breath so that he can raise his prana from one level to another, like that. Devotee also does this, but he doesn't rely on prana. He relies on consciousness directly to raise his consciousness to the next level. So anyway, prana means energy, so energy. So then the next level is manomaya, which is the mind. So at this stage, the meditating yogi, he is now working, he has shut down his senses and he is now working on controlling the mind by quieting the mind, by keeping it focused, beginning on dharana. By practicing dharana, concentration, he's trying to control the mind. So he's more on the Manomaya Kosha, but not fully yet, until he's able to merge his mind, right? Merge his senses into the mind. Then only he reaches real Manomaya Kosha, which is lasting. So anyway, Sukadev Goswami describes this, right? So the devotee, thus surpassing the gross and subtle forms of coverings, enters the Manamaya. So where is Manamayam? Manamayam is here, Manomaya. So when does that happen? That happens when the mind begins to be merged. So the process of merging the mind, using the intelligence, process of merging the mind into the Atma. That is where Manomaya. So it begins at Manomaya, right? And when the process of merging is completed, then it switches to, it is at the end of Manomaya, right? So that's what happens. And in that status, he merges the material modes of nature, tamas and rajas. So in Manomaya, he is merging his senses into the mind. First, he merges the modes of ignorance. So anything to do with the mode of ignorance, he dilutes it into the mind. And then he merges passion, mode of passion, rajas, all right? And then finally comes to the mode of goodness. So, and in that status, he merges the material modes of nature in this point of neutralization and thus reaches egoism in goodness, right? It's called Devamayam Vikaryam. Deva means goodness. Mayam Vikaryam means ego, right? So ego in the mode of goodness. So that is at the end of Manomaya, right? So what happens is he merges step by step. His conscious for a devotee, his consciousness is now that I am Atma, and I am not just Atma, I am Divya Swarupavai Krishna Nityadas. I am the servant of Krishna. So he's situated in the mode of goodness and he's practicing devotional service. So there he's already in this Manomaya Kosha. After this, all egoism is merged in the Mahatattva and he comes to the point of pure self-realization, Vijnana Tattva. So Manomaya Kosha is just at the verge of liberation. So at liberation is called Vijnana Maya Kosha. Vijnana Maya Kosha. Vijnana means realized knowledge, which is liberation, right? So this is the level he reaches. The devotee who is fully engrossed in devotional service, right? And everything he does is for the seva of the Lord. His consciousness is, I am working for the Lord's pleasure. I am doing everything I'm offering everything. Everything is for the Lord's pleasure. Surrenders to the Lord, right? Depends on the Lord. So that such a person is already liberated, right? Even though he's still alive, living in this world. So that's called Jivan Mukta. So such a person is to be understood in the Vijnana Maya Kosha. Of course, he could be higher. He could also be Ananda Maya Kosha. A devotee at this stage who is more advanced, completely fully dependent on the Lord and completely merged in the pastimes of the Lord, like how the 6 Goswamis were showing their example, right? So they are like the Ananda Maya Kosha. So in other words, they go into Samadhi. So within the living body. So Anandamaya Kosha is bliss. See the word Ananda means bliss. So they are relishing bliss completely. So the pure devotee, the Prema Bhakta, even the Bhava Bhakta devotee is in Anandamaya Kosha. Right? Because liberation begins at Vijnana Maya and continues into Anandamaya. So anyway, these are all technical terms. You don't have to be too bothered about this, but just to explain this point, because then, so that we know about the koshas. So koshas are quite popular. If you go outside to yoga societies and all, they will talk about all these things. So we can also show that we are not ignorant. So therefore, we can learn all these things as well. It's described here in Srimad Bhagavatam. So then Prabhupada says the Bhakti Yogi parallel. So he talks about the Bhakti Yogi parallel, a devotee. What is the parallel of this kosha for the devotee? In the second stage only, the stage of reflection. So here Prabhupada is talking about chanting, right? We are doing chanting. So in chanting, there are 3 stages, right? The first stage is called Nama Aparad. So Nama Aparad means we are chanting, but we are committing many offenses while we are chanting. So as long as we are committing some form of offense, there are 10 offenses of chanting. If we remember the 10 offenses when we recite in the mornings, right? First offense amongst all the worst offenses is number 1, offending the pure devotees of the Lord who have dedicated their life in the service and propagation of the of devotional service. So that is the first offense. We don't want to offend devotees, especially pure devotees or devotees who have dedicated their lives, right? That is very, very serious. Of course, there are other offenses, like second offense is to disobey. No, second offense is to consider the names of the devatas like Brahma or Shiva to be equal and independent of the names of Lord Vishnu or Krishna. So to think that Devatas and Krishna or the Lord are in the same level, that is also a form of ignorance, which is an offense, if we continue to think that way. Right? Third offense is to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. Fourth offense is to disregard the Vedic scriptures, right? To blaspheme the Vedic scriptures and pursuance of the Vedic version. That means you don't have faith in the scriptures, or you don't read the scriptures. We don't want to hear the scriptures. So like that, there are 10 offenses. We don't have to go through each one of them now, right? So, but that's the first stage of chanting while committing offenses. So that stage, though it's better compared to not chanting at all, right? But that stage cannot give us advancement, tangible advancement, until and unless we make tangible effort to reduce these anarthas. We have to tangibly plan, right? We have to plan, and we have to be guarded and we have to be careful to reduce these anarthas. First, we have to know what these anarthas are, and then we have to be more subtle in where these anarthas can appear in our lives. And then we have to, introspect in our life every day to ensure that such anarthas don't happen even without our thinking or knowing it. So we cannot afford it otherwise, right? So that way we can make spiritual progress. The second stage of chanting is called Nama Bas. Nama Bas means we are not committing aparad, but the Nama Bas is but we are not fully concentrating in the name of the Lord yet. So there's still anarthas. It is better, it's clearing, but the pure name is not yet revealed because of our anarthas within our body. So that is the good stage, beginning of the good stage. So Prabhupada says here, in the second stage only, or in other words, Namabhas, the stage of reflection between the offensive and offenseless stages. So this is the in-between stage, we're transitioning. One automatically attains the stage of emancipation. So when we are chanting, Prabhupada says, that's why Prabhupada says many times, when we are chanting without offense, at that point, we are actually liberated. So when anyone is chanting seriously, right, without offense, he is at that time already liberated. But the problem is the liberation doesn't remain. So that means when he is chanting Namabhas, and let's say he dies at that time, because he was chanting Namabhas, he was already liberated. So if he dies, he's already free, right? So that's this problem, to die at that stage. That's why it's very nice when devotees say Hare Krishna and they leave the body. It's something very, very celebrated, right? Because they do it in, either Namabhash or Suddhanam. So that's a very powerful stage, right? But the thing is, if we can continuously do Namabhash constantly, if our consciousness is fixed at Namabhash all the time, then we are already in Vijnana Maya Kosha, right? So that's the thing. So when we are chanting Namabhash, we hit Vijnana Maya Kosha, but we don't remain there. We drop back. So therefore, through devotional principles, we raise our consciousness from Annamaya to Pranamaya, right? So we purify our eating, we purify our material life, and then we come to energy. How do we direct our activities? That's why Krishna tells Arjuna, begin karma yoga, right? Perform your service, perform actions, but do it for me, right? Which is a form of bhakti yoga also, right? It's a beginning stage where one actually does his normal work, but he does it for Krishna's pleasure. So then it becomes directing our energy towards the service. So that's already pranamaya. So sometimes if we are not all the time doing pranamaya, again we might drop back, right? So by the practice of devotional service, we dovetail our lives to higher and higher to come to Manomaya, where we are always thinking of the Lord. So thinking of the Lord, that's why in chapter 15, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes how we can think of the Lord in different ways. So by gradual elevation, by simply following the processes of devotional service, what are the processes of devotional service? 4 regulative principles to begin with, 16 rounds, always going on, right? So Ekadasi and so forth. So this is the devotional principle. Simply by doing this, we can come layer by layer, come to the point of Vijnana Maya, and then even transcend to Ananda Maya. So here Prabhupada is saying, simply by Nama Bhash, which is so powerful, we are already in the stage of Vijnana Maya. So when we are chanting attentively, that is already Vijnana Maya Kosha, not temporary. And in the offenseless stage, one actually enters into the kingdom of Godhead. So Nama Bhash is a practice for us to produce that one Suddha Nam. If we can produce one Suddha Nam, we are already completely purified. It's no longer shaky, right? It's already Bhava and Prema eventually. So, and in the offenseless stage, one actually enters into the kingdom of God. Although physically he may apparently be within the world. So if one is chanting with Suddha Nam, he is already united with the Supreme Lord, Anandamaya Kosha, and therefore he's experiencing bliss. So this is how Haridas Thakur, this is how, all the great acharyas in their examples were experiencing, how Prabhupada was experiencing. So that's description of the koshas and the bhakti parallel, right? And Prabhupada continues, when we speak of hearing and chanting, so here it's important for us to define clearly, whenever Prabhupada says hearing, chanting, what does he mean when he says hearing, chanting? So Prabhupada is making it very clear here. When we speak of hearing and chanting, it means that not only one should chant and hear of the holy name of the Lord as Rama, Krishna, or systematically the Mahamantra, but one should also read and hear the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of devotees. So this is what he means by hearing and chanting. So whenever he's saying hearing and chanting, he means doing this, right? Chanting systematically Hare Krishna Mahamantra and also systematically reading and hearing Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam with devotees. To attain the offenseless stage, one must be on guard. So how to reach the Anandamaya Kosha? So to attain the offenseless stage, one must be on guard in the following manner. So in our devotional practice, we must be careful. On guard against what? Just like how, when we are planting the seed of bhakti is planted in our heart. And we are now, the seed is like faith of bhakti. And now we are watering that bhakti. So what to do? Watering is our chanting and hearing. Our hearing and chanting is the watering of this plant, devotional creeper. But still, if we are planning to reach the Anandamaya stage, the topmost stage, how do we reach that? By doing offenseless chanting. If we want to do offenseless chanting, we must guard this bhakti creeper against what? When we guard a plant, what do we guard the plant against? There are two things we guard the plant against. One thing is we guard the plant against animals and pests. Pests. So certain types of insects, they will come and eat the leaves and eat the things, and all other bigger animals. Sometimes a cat may come or a dog may come and step on the plant, and then the plant gets crushed, right? So, or a bigger animal. Amongst all the animals that could damage a plant, the worst animal is the elephant. But even elephants, they sometimes are very careful where they put their feet. So even worse than the elephant is the mad elephant. So the mad elephant doesn't care where he puts his feet. He destroys everything. So therefore, the mad elephant offense is the offense of blaspheming a devotee. So the blaspheming of a devotee, saying something which is bad about a devotee, that is like the mad elephant offense. Hati mata aparada. It's the worst, right? So, and that one can destroy completely the plant. It not destroy in the sense, because nothing can destroy the seed of bhakti. But what it does is it completely destroys the growth of the plant. It brings it back to seed form again. Whatever it may have grown, it again goes back to seed, right? So therefore, one must guard against these animals and pests. How do we guard against them? By putting fence, right? Putting a fence, right? We can guard against this kind of pests, or we constantly, vigilantly, we remove these insects when they come. Right? We cover them with some net or whatever it is. So this is guarding. So therefore, in the same way, we have to guard our devotional kripa, right, against the 10 offenses. So these pests are like the offenses. So all the animals, the worst offense is the Hatimata Aparat, the mad elephant offense, blaspheming a devotee. Otherwise, there are other offenses. So there is a Jiva Aparat, offending living entities. There is Seva Aparat, offenses produced when serving the Lord, right? And there is what do you call other types of aparad also, which are parts of Nama aparad, of which the worst is Vaishnava aparad. So we have to guard against them. So the word used is guard. Guard means, have you seen a guard? A guard is always vigilant, right? Always carrying the pistol and walking back and forth, right? At least not the bank guards, but the actual guard. So anyway, so the devotee must therefore be very careful to uproot the different weeds in the very beginning. So one is pests. The second thing we should guard against is weeds. Because when we are watering the plant, weeds also get the water and they also are growing. So these weeds are like the different types of anarthas in our heart. So, different types of desires which are not in line with Krishna's desires. So this is called, there are different types. There is ignorance. There is ignorance is the root cause of the anarthas, and there is also weakness of the heart. So even though you know it's wrong, but still we do it. So that is called weakness of the heart, lack of determination. And then there is different kinds of bad desires. We have different people have different illicit desires, or even selfish desires, all that. So all this is anarthas. So a devotee must therefore be very careful to uproot the different weeds. They can be very subtle. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu warns the 6 types of anarthas. There are 3 gross anarthas which can all be classified into 3 gross and 3 subtle. It's a very deep subject matter. We will just lightly touch it today. So the 3 gross anarthas are, what's the Sanskrit name? Visida, Nisida, I forgot the first name. The first one, anyway, the first anartha is bad behavior. So behaving badly. So that is a type of anartha. Of course, it's a very big topic, behaving badly. Like, being rude, using, bad language, or, littering on the floor. So bad behavior generally. So that is word is Nisidachara. Nisidachara. Nisid achara. Achar means behavior. Nisid means bad behavior. Then the second gross anartha is Nisiddhachara Kutinati. Kutinati is more subtle, it's in the mind. Kutinati means duplicity or crooked nature, right? Say one thing and do another thing. Hypocrisy, crooked nature. I don't want to go too much into that. It's duplicitous behavior. So like Duryodhana, right? For example. So that is another gross thing we should root out from our heart. So while we are practicing spiritual life, at the same time, if we are behaving in a duplicitous manner, trying to outmaneuver people, trying to, this, then it's not going to help. It's anarthas. It's like a weed. The same chanting and hearing and all that we are doing will end up nourishing the anarthas. Just like how watering the plant will also water the weeds. In that way, the weeds will grow and they will grow very big and they will choke the plant and the weeds will become the main thing. So that's the fall down. We have to be careful about these things. The third anartha is Nisidachara Kutinati Jiva Himsa. Jiva Himsa means being cruel to living entities. So any kind of cruelty, cruelty by action, cruelty by words, cruelty by, in the mind. So all this is cruelty. Selfishness is also a type of cruelty. Envy is a type of cruelty. So these you have to avoid. And then there are three subtle the weeds. The three subtle weeds are labha. Labha means desire for gain. Want to profit from something, right? In spirituality. So then there is puja. Puja means adoration. So they enjoy people, adoration. People, they enjoy respect from people, right? And then there is pratishta, which is the most subtle. Pratishta means they want to be, uh, they want to have a distinction. They want to be appreciated. They want to, it's not wrong. People may argue, right? But nevertheless, it is a desire that in some way, So we do devotional service. It's between Krishna and us. Nobody else needs to know, right? Nobody else needs to tell what is right, what is good. I mean, the Guru tells us, right? But we don't have to reveal. We don't have to nowadays, in the name of sharing, we share all kinds of things, even things which other people don't want to know about. So it's very badly misused word. So it's more like broadcasting actually, rather than sharing. So they don't want to say broadcasting or advertising, but so they use the word sharing. So otherwise, what you share money, you share food, but here you're sharing all the wonderful things that we have done, our glories. Oh, I'm sharing with you my glory of what I did, previous, I did this, I did that. So, and they call that sharing, which is not. So anyway, so that is pratishta, labha, puja, and pratishta. So these are subtle weeds which grow, which we have to constantly be vigilant and root out. Otherwise, these weeds, the subtle weeds, they look just like the bhakti plant. That's the thing. So, sometimes when you grow tulsi, there are other plants which look just like tulsi, especially when they are very young. So then you may end up pulling that out. So you have to be careful. So the devotee must be careful to uproot the different weeds in the very beginning. Only then will the healthy growth of the main creeper not be stunted. So that's in the very beginning, we have to be careful. Otherwise, we end up watering the wrong plant, right? So now we come to this point. Sukadev Goswami continues. Only the purified soul, Tenatma, can attain the perfection of associating with the Atmanam, the super soul, in complete Santam, peacefulness, Anandam, bliss, in his constitutional state, spiritual body, Anandamaya, right? So how to reach Anandamaya, right? So only the pure soul, the purified soul, that means no more impurities. That's why you saw how, even the ego had to be purified. The Dhyana yogi had to merge his ego with the earth, with the fire, with the air. In this way, layer by layer, he got purified. Same way, the devotee also, right? Using bhakti, he purifies himself layer by layer. So only when they are pure, when are they pure? In the stage of bhava bhakti, right? Liberation. At the stage of bhava bhakti, they are already pure, right? So at that time, at bhava bhakti, they can directly associate with the Lord. So that's why it is described, chapter 18 Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. So Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma means at the stage of Brahman realization, right, is very blissful, and at that time real devotional service takes place. Right now, we are serving our Guru. Our devotional service is to serve our Guru, and in that way, the Guru gives the devotional service to Krishna. We cannot directly serve Krishna. We have to serve through a pure medium. And the Guru, representing the Parampara, is a pure medium. So that's why we need a Guru, right? So therefore, if you want to go to Anandamaya Kosha, we have to purify ourselves. How do we purify ourselves? By using our intelligence. First, we have to purify our intelligence. How do we purify our intelligence? By taking up the path of yoga, either the Jnana Yoga or the Bhakti Yoga. So by purifying our intelligence, we control the mind. By controlling the mind, we can merge our consciousness into the Supreme, right? And in this way, come to the level of Anandamaya Kosha. So Prabhupada says, pure self-realization, as we have several times discussed, is the pure consciousness of admitting oneself to be the eternal servitor of the Lord. So to completely surrender, Sarvadharma Parityagya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vrajaham Tvam Sarva Papibhyo Mokshayishyami Ma Sujara. So we have to come to this platform. So then it is, Anandamaya Kosha. Whoever is able to renovate such devotional perfection, Bhagavan Gataha, Bhagavatim Gataha, is never again attracted by this material world and never returns. So this word Bhagavatim is very important because it clearly again establishes Bhagavatim means devotion, right? Devotee. So it clearly again establishes that without devotional perfection, without devotional tinge, one cannot attain any of the three absolute truth categories, Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. And to attain the highest, what to speak of attaining the highest, right? One has to able to develop our devotional perfection. And then when we develop prema, so here he's actually talking about prema, right? So he's hinting it. He's not directly mentioning prema yet because this is just chapter 2 of Canto 2. So all prema all will be later discussions. So, but he's hinting here at this point about prema. Because when he has prema, he never again is attracted by material world and he never returns. Because unless he gets prema, there is still attraction, right? So unless there's something completely capturing our mind, which is Krishna Prema, then only we will never return. So now Sukadev Goswami is wrapping up. He's completing his chapter 2 discussion. Chapter 2 was about the Lord in the heart, right? Discussing about Paramatma and the Paramatma Yogi. So Your Majesty, Maharaj Parikshit, you know all that I have described in reply to your proper inquiry is just according to the version of the Vedas, Veda Gita. So that's very important. When we tell people, when we advise people, when we speak about scripture, when we speak about anything, it should be authoritative. You know, in material life, we say evidence-based, right? Of course, the evidence we base on is fallible. The evidence can be concocted, but that's material thing. But in the spiritual aspect, we have to link whatever we say based on scriptural evidence. And scriptural evidence, unlike material evidence, is perfect. It's not, subjected to the four defects, as particularly when it is coming through parampara, a bona fide parampara. If we go and read on our own, then we cannot make head of tails. But when it's coming through the parampara, it is protected. Beyond protected, it is also with mercy. So, and it is easily digestible, right? So therefore, we have to ensure it is Veda Gita and it is the eternal truth, Sanatane. It doesn't change. It doesn't mean that, 100 years ago, it was valid. Now, everything is so modern. These things are not practical already. No, it's not like that. So unless the scripture says so, it is always applicable, Sanatane, particularly the Srimad Bhagavatam. The concepts of Srimad Bhagavatam is eternal, even though other concepts are not eternal. Like, for example, fire sacrifice. Fire sacrifice was only there for Treta Yuga. After Treta Yuga, it's no longer effective. So it lost its efficacy. So it was not Sanatan, right? But Bhakti is always Sanatan. Whichever yuga, it's always Sanatan. Chanting the holy names of the Lord is always Sanatan. That's the advantage of the Bhakti. So this was described personally, all that I have told you, Parikshit Maharaj, was described personally by Bhagavan Vasudeva unto Brahma, with whom the Lord was satisfied upon being properly worshipped. So Lord Brahma, the head of our Sampradaya, right? So he is our spiritual master, right? Grand spiritual master, and we are coming through his line. So therefore, this was passed by Parampara. And Sukadev Goswami continues, for those who are wandering in the material universe, there is no more auspicious means of deliverance. Auspicious is another word for Shiva. The word Shiva means auspicious. So that's very poetically put, because we are wandering in the material universe. And the material universe, we were talking earlier about Ahankar. Ahankar comes from Lord Shiva, right? He's the Lord of Ahankar, false ego. And for those with false ego and those who are uh, wandering in the material universe, the Lord of the material universe is Lord Shiva, right? Because they gave birth to the material universe. Shiva and Parvati's union created the material universe. So in this way, it's interesting that the word Shiva is also used here, right? So there is nothing more Shiva or auspicious for the wandering entities of this material universe than what is described earlier. Then, so it says, for those who are wandering in the material universe, there is no more auspiciousness, Shiva, method of deliverance than what is aimed at in Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga. So after talking about Dhyana Yoga, now Sukadev Goswami is saying the most auspicious means of deliverance is Bhakti. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga. He makes it very clear, very explicit. No misinterpretation here. So Prabhupada says there are many indirect methods of deliverance. Like we heard, right? This chapter 1, chapter 2, we heard about that, right? Chapter 2 particularly. Indirect, going through the Sishumara, going through the different planetary system, taking this body, this body, and then, so it's very indirect, very troublesome also, and fraught with risks. But none of them is as easy and auspicious as Bhakti Yoga. The means of jnana and yoga and other allied disciplines are not independent in delivering a performer. They are not independent because they are dependent on bhakti, like how we demonstrated in this chapter. Such activities help one to reach the stage of bhakti yoga only after many, many years. So remember, Vishwarupa meditation will not bear fruit until it is Vishwarupa meditation. And Vishwarupa meditation can only take you so far until you switch to Paramatma meditation. And Paramatma meditation itself is only to bring you to the point of bhakti, right? So therefore, it's a very slow, long about process. Even more fortunate are those who take up bhakti right from the beginning. So then Sukadev Goswami says, the great personality Brahma, with great attention and concentration of the mind, studied the Vedas 3 times. 3, right? He used the word 3. 3 times with his 4 heads, he studied the Vedas 3 times. And after scrutinizingly examining them, what was his conclusion? This is the topmost intelligent being in the universe, mind you. What was his conclusion? He ascertained that Rati, or attraction for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the highest perfection of religion. That's his conclusion, right? So don't we want to accept the conclusion of the most intelligent person in the universe, right? Who spoke the Vedas only. So you can see any other interpretation of the Vedas is not in line with what Brahma is saying. It's not in line with what Narada is saying. It's not in line with what Vyasadeva has mentioned, right? So this is what happens in Hinduism sometimes. People take up the scriptures and they come up with their own interpretation, own commentary, which is not in line with the commentary and interpretation and the meaning of the original authors. So that's the problem. So that's why we have to receive the Vedic scriptures or receive spiritual knowledge through parampara. Otherwise, we are at huge risk because there's a lot of corruption. So these last few verses are very nice. I'll just say the verse. Bhagavan sarvabhuteshu lakshitaha swatmana hari drisya buddhi adivir drashta lakshanahe anuma pakaihi. The personality of Godhead Hari is in every living being. Bhagavan sarva bhuteshu is every living being, every between atoms, in atoms, everything, along with the individual soul. In the living being, there's the individual soul and there is the karma. So that's confirmed, right? And this fact is perceived and hypothesized in our acts of seeing and help. And we can see how taking help from the intelligence. So we can see how Paramatma is acting. People may say, where there is the evidence, where's the proof about Paramatma? So actually, you know, you will not be able to see Paramatma because he's spiritual, right? But you can definitely feel Paramatma's effect in many things. Like, for example, atoms. Where do atoms get their energy? So it comes from Paramatma, right? All the quarks and electrons or whatnots are only mechanisms which is channeling the energy coming from Paramatma. So that's definitely there, right? We can perceive, right? We can perceive it, in the atom. That's why the father of atomic bomb, right? What's his name again? Oppenheimer. Yeah, Oppenheimer. That's why he quoted the Bhagavad Gita when he made that explosion, the Gami explosion. So therefore, time I am, right? He quoted that particular verse, time I am. So, and this is the Lord, right? He's small, and he himself says, I am the atom, I'm in the atom. So that is perceivable, hypothesized. But we can see Paramatma also interacting with living beings. For example, in nature, you can see all these particular animals. For example, my daughter just came back from swimming lessons. So, have to pay so much of money, so many days, so many weeks, went to teach swimming. So, but who taught the fish to swim? The duck. Who taught the duck? The duck, as soon as it's born, it enters into the water and it just knows what to do. The fish, born swimming, right? Did it take swimming lessons? No, they don't. Dog, for example. How does a dog know how to swim? It didn't take swimming lessons. It knows how to swim. We have to take swimming lessons and still sometimes don't know how to swim. What about the beaver? The beaver knows how to build a dam. Did it take a degree in civil engineering? It knew how to build a dam. So who is giving this intelligence to the beaver? You know? What about the caterpillar? The caterpillar can build a cocoon for itself so that it can transform into a butterfly. So who taught the caterpillar how to build a cocoon? It's just born one. Within a few days, I didn't see the caterpillar attending any universities, but he knew how to build a perfect, cocoon. What about migrating birds? Right? They just do. Who gave them navigation? Where's their compass? Where's the navigation equipment? Did they learn geography? No, they know how to go where to go. There's one bird called the Arctic tern. It travels 90,000 kilometers from the North Pole to the South Pole for its migration. Can you imagine? Right? Who taught it out? If we tell us, let's go to the North Pole, I wouldn't know which way, because we go north, right? But still, it's not easy. And they are able to do it. They didn't go for flight travel, they didn't go for pilot training, nothing. Then there's something called the monarch butterfly. Okay, I mean, something like the bird. So it also migrates. A butterfly, it travels 160 kilometers per day, right? Traveling even up to 4.6 thousand kilometers in its life in order to migrate. So it does this every year, and it goes to the same place. Who taught it where to go? This one, scientists are also befuddled. They don't know, because the butterfly is born somewhere else, but it migrates alone, not with a pack, it migrates alone to one particular place, its ancestral area, apparently. All monarch butterflies travel there and they come back. So who gave them this intelligence? Same thing, hermit crab. Hermit crabs also migrate. They travel on land. From water, they all come in an army going into a direction. How do they know which direction? Somehow, innately, Paramatma within the heart is guiding them. And then we have the octopus. The octopus is able to change shape, change color. If an octopus is passing through a black and white marble floor, it will become like black and white, like the marble floor. It doesn't. So, it didn't go through fashion design course. It didn't go through escapism art or disguise class. It knows all this automatically. Same thing like spider. Who taught the spider how to build its web? Amazing architecture, right? Bees, did the bees go for cooking class to learn how to make honey? No, they chemistry lab. No, they know how to make honey naturally. This is the Lord's intelligence guiding the Paramatma. Just to, and we also have even plants, trees. How do trees know how to direct their what we call their roots towards water, right, or towards sunlight? So branches towards sunlight. So this is all intelligence of the Lord coming through. So just to drive home that point a little bit more, and since we are in Malaysia, so I'm going to give a Malaysian example, a very unique creature living in Malaysia. It's called the assassin bug, Malaysian assassin bug. You know what this assassin bug does? It looks like this. It hunts ants. So it goes searching for ants, and what it does, once it catches the ants, it injects some enzyme into the ant's body, which converts everything into liquid inside the ant, and it drinks it like a straw. So the ant becomes just a husk. The exoskeleton of the ant remains inside of the ant, all eaten, drunk by this assassin bug. And then what it does next is weird. So what it does is it takes the ant's body, the dried husk of the exoskeleton of the ant, and puts it on top of its body. So like that, it hunts many ants, and it ends up like this. You can see these are all the bodies of the ants. So it sticks them on its body with some fluid, right? And it changes its shape. It makes itself look larger, look more ferocious, right? So in this way, it tricks its predators. So, birds, rodents, other creatures, when they see this assassin bug, they will see such a huge menacing creature, so they won't come. So it builds itself like an armor. It also builds itself a disguise. So, it's a bug. How does a bug? This is strategic thinking, isn't it? It's actually strategic thinking. Who taught the bug strategic thinking? So it's not only human beings who can be kutinati, right? Duplicious. It's also animals. So this intelligence is given naturally by the Lord. So anyway, enough of National Geographic. So Prabhupada says here, if we stick to our determination and pray for the mercy of the director of intelligence, sitting within the same bodily trees, sitting within the same bodily tree, like a bird sitting within another bird. So just now I mentioned how Paramatma is interacting with so many creatures, right? So why won't Paramatma interact with us? He's here, right? If we stick to but what is the key? The key is we have to stick to our determination and pray, right? So, Satatam Kirtayantamam Yatantascha Drida Vritaha. So devotees are always chanting my names. They are endeavoring with great determination. Yatantascha Drida Vritaha. Drida Vritaha, great determination they are endeavoring. Right? So we have to stick to our determination and pray also, right? And then what happens? What happens is Krishna will reciprocate. So Krishna is he's sitting like a tree. Just a moment. Okay. So Krishna is sitting in our heart, just like two birds in a tree. Right? So if we stick to our determination in devotional service and pray, then the Lord reciprocates. Tesham satatam yuktanam vajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. This is one of the chapters Krishna is telling Arjuna, right? Tesham, those who are always chanting my name, right? Tesham satatam yuktanam vajatam pritipurvakam, and determined and taking up devotional service seriously, vajatam pritipurvakam, dadami buddhi yogam tam, I give that intelligence, right, from within. So Krishna is from within the heart, as Paramatma gives the intelligence to the devotee of how the devotee can make progress. Come back to me. Dadami buddhi yogantam yena mam upayantite. How he can come to me. So Krishna is saying that, right? He shows that way. So certainly, if we stick to our determination and pray, right, hearing and chanting, Certainly, the purport of the revealed information of the Vedas becomes clear to our vision. So when we read and when we hear, our understanding becomes better and better. And there is no difficulty in realizing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna confirms this again in Bhagavad Gita. Asarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto mata smritirjnanam apohanam cha vedesya sarveraham eva vidyo vedantakrit eva vidveda chaham. So Krishna is saying, from me comes remembrance, forgetfulness, remembrance, and knowledge, and all that, right? So he is the one giving. So and the Vedas are from him only we can understand the Vedas, and the Vedas themselves reveal him also. So we can get this. Right, just a moment. Okay. So we are going to finish just one more slide. This is the last slide. So I'll just say it. Tasmat sarvatmana rajam harir sarvatra sarvada srotavya kirtitavyascha smartavyo bhagavan nrinam. O king, it is therefore essential that every human being hear about, glorify, and remember the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, always and everywhere. So Prabhupada says, but out of all the 9 different methods, the first one, namely hearing, is the most important function in the process of Bhakti Yoga. Very important, very interesting, right? So, therefore, it is essential for us to, as human beings, to hear, begins by hearing, and then to glorify, chanting, then to remember, smaranam, the Supreme Lord, always and everywhere, right? But the most important here is hearing. Although chanting is the Yuga Dharma, right? But chanting cannot be successful if our hearing is not proper. By taking up chanting, we get introduced into bhakti, right? But we have to still begin from hearing. So therefore, Prabhupada has this to say. Without hearing sufficiently and properly, no one can make any progress by any of the methods of practice. That means by any other method of devotional service, unless we hear sufficiently and properly, we cannot make progress. What about chanting then? So Prabhupada says, hearing is solidified by the process of chanting. So if it's true that we are chanting properly, our desire for hearing should increase and our hearing must become solid, right? Then we can do chanting better. So chanting and hearing are cyclic. Chanting nourishes hearing, hearing nourishes chanting, and usually one may get attracted by hearing, but in Kali Yuga, most of the people get attracted by chanting. So by other people chanting, when other people chant, we are hearing, right? So even when other people chant, we hear, and then we get attracted. So then we have to solidify it further and further and further. Then only our chanting becomes powerful and strong. So that's why Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita is given to us. That's why Sukadev Goswami is speaking all this. That's why Vyasadev took so much of trouble to write. That's why Srila Prabhupada took so much of trouble in his 70 years old age to write, sleeping only 2 hours a day. Right? So it's for us to hear. Because the Lord is all pervading, it is essential to glorify Him always and everywhere. In the process of glorifying the Lord, there should be no restriction of time and space. Right? That's clear enough. The Lord is the master of all time and all space, and therefore the Lord's holy name must be heard, glorified, and remembered everywhere in the world. That will bring about the desired peace and prosperity so eagerly awaited by the people of the world. I'll repeat that again. That will bring about the desired peace and prosperity so eagerly awaited by the people. What will bring the peace and prosperity? Right? Chanting, hearing, chanting. Basically, the Lord's holy name must be distributed everywhere. Together with chanting, Srimad Bhagavatam as well. Right? Life is never made comfortable by artificial needs, but by plain living and high thinking. The highest perfectional thinking for human society is hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. By sufficient hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, the polluted aim of life, namely lording it over matter, will subside, and the people in general in all parts of the world will be able to live a peaceful life of knowledge and bliss. So that is the reason Prabhupada established ISKCON. First reason is to propagate the chanting of the holy name, Harinam Sankirtan, everywhere, and to propagate Srimad Bhagavatam and the books, right? So that people, together with these two, right, and together, yeah, in this way, he wanted to conquer the world, to save the people of the world. That is the belief. That is the understanding. So that's why these two activities are extremely important, right? Every congregation must have strong Harinam, must have strong Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and Chaitanya Charitamrita. The culture of hearing and chanting must be very strong. Then that congregation is a strong congregation. For a pure devotee of the Lord, any topic in relation with his name, fame, quality, entourage are all pleasing to the heart and soul. So it becomes like a sugar candy. At any part also you bite, it is sweet. That is the how a devotee appreciates the Lord's topic. He doesn't distinguish. He doesn't say, oh, this topic is boring, that topic is so technical. No, everything is nice to hear, right? So Krishna consciousness is very sweet in every direction. So Srimad Bhagavatam is like the sun. It rose in the darkness of Kali Yuga. This is the last verse, 37. Pibanti ye Bhagavata Atmana Satam Kathamritam Shravana Puteshu Sambritam Punanti te Vishaya Vidusitashayam Rajanti Tatcharana Saroruhantikam. So this verse says, those who drink through oral reception, fully filled with the nectarian message of Lord Krishna, the beloved of the devotees. Pibanti. Pibanti means those who are drinking. Drinking what? Kathamritam. Amrita Katha. Of what? Of Bhagavata. Bhagavata means the Lord, the devotees, paraphernalia, right? So those who drink through oral reception, Shravana Puteshu, that means through the ears, fully filled the ears. Sambrita means fully the ears are filled. That means constant, all the time, drinking, right? Of the message of Lord Krishna, the beloved of the devotees. They purify the polluted aim of life. The material fever reduces and disappears. This is the way to reduce our material desires. Change our material desires to spiritual desires. And thus, that becomes the passport for us to go back to Godhead, to the lotus feet of Him, that personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, the beloved of the devotees. Right? So Prabhupada says, and by so doing, the devotee is able to relish the fruit of love of God and thus live practically with Lord Krishna, even in this life, and be able to see the Lord in every step. So this can be attained in this life also, if we follow Prabhupada's instructions. And one who can relish this does not aspire after anything else. Once we have tasted the taste of love of God, he no longer wants anything else in the material world. Nothing else is beautiful or wonderful in this material world when he has tasted the love of God, Krishna consciousness. So with that we end. That's how chapter 2 ends. So let us recite Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you very much, devotees. Thank you for your time. And all glories to Srimad Bhagavatam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. So any questions, anybody? Anything you'd like to ask? Or so I apologize if the sound quality was a bit shaky. I don't know why. Internet was okay. Any questions? I see one in the chat. Shanti Mataji is asking, explain the location of Swargaloka as it is seen among the 7 planets. Okay, so Swarga, first Bhuloka. Bhuloka is earthly planet, where Earth is one of the planets, right? There's other places within Bhuloka. Higher than Bhuloka is Bhuvar Loka. That's the next stage. Bhuvarloka is not too far away. It's described, it's a subtle area somewhere within the region of where the aeroplane flies, in the stratosphere. That's where the aeroplane flies, right? Above the clouds. So from there onwards to a higher dimension, to a higher distance, is within the region of Bhuvarloka. It's subtle. And it's described that's where the ghostly beings live. That's Bhuvarloka. They are more powerful than us, like the jinns. So then above, in the Bhuvarloka, not only the jinns and the ghosts, there are also the Kinaras, the Yakshas, the Charanas, the Kim Purushas, the Apsaras, the Gandharvas. So they all different species of semi-divine beings who live in that region of Bhuvarloka. And above that is Swargaloka. So that is where the heavenly planets like Indraloka and all these planets are there. I hope that answers the question, Mataji. So that's the first three: Bhu, Bhuvar, Swarga, and then comes Maharloka, and then Tapoloka, Janaloka, and Satyaloka. So these are the 7 upper planetary systems. Any other questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, yes, Prabhu.
Talking about these lokas,
Mm.
if you go back to Canto 2 and chapter 2, 28, 2:28, it explains that each lokas are distance of 80 million miles.
No. It's each layer, not loka. Each layer.
Covering is calculated, is covering, is it?
Yeah, it's the layer. I mentioned at the cover of the universe has a cover, like a layer, like an egg. So the shell of the egg, there are 7 layers on the shell of the egg. And each layer, the first layer, the innermost layer
7
is
or 14?
7, yeah. The layer got 7. Loka is planetary system. That one is within the egg. Huh? Like imagine it like a coconut. In a coconut, inside the coconut, there are 7 levels. Upper,
Layer.
7 levels lower. So that's inside the coconut. But the coconut shell has 7 thick layers. So, and the innermost layer itself is 80 billion miles. 80 million, 80 million, 80 million miles. The next layer is 10 times that. The next layer is 10 times that also. And like that, 10 times, 10 times, 10 times. So it forms 7 layers. I
So
hope
it's
that's
calculated diametrically both ways of 4 billion miles.
4 billion miles is the inside one. The inside, the universe size inside the layer diameter is 4 billion miles, but the layer itself is thicker, right? So it's a very thick layer, and it's just like inside only is like a small, that means like the shell is very thick. The inside is very,
How
very
to
small.
penetrate? How our soul can penetrate all these,
Ah,
Prabhu?
Tula. That's the power of Lord Shiva and Durga. They are the ones who penetrated the soul inside. The Lord, we come from Mahavishnu. So Mahavishnu, from Mahavishnu's glance, the union between Lord Shiva and Parvati. So Parvati is the material universe, right? And Lord Shiva is the Lord of the material universe. So by that union, which is the symbol of that is the lingam, right? So by that union is how the jivas from the spiritual world penetrated into the material creation.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the questions. Any other questions? Right. So it's getting late. There's no questions. I'm sorry it took us almost 2 hours. Towards the end, I wanted to finish this chapter. Otherwise, it'll spill forth again in the next part 6 pula. Okay, so anyway, thank you so much for your time. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So good night and have a nice weekend.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Bol.
Dandar
Thank
pranams.
you so much.